All right, how is it going, everyone? We are back for another episode here, and we're going to break down our road trip.
Yep.
We did roughly a little over 1,000 miles.
Yeah.
Round trip.
1,100. Yeah.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people out there with electric vehicles that are. I had a coworker. I mentioned I bought an electric car, and she was like, "Oh, I'd get one, but I'm just afraid I'm going to get stranded." And I mean,
then don't get stranded.
Exactly, so it was very interesting. We pre-planned places to charge, but then as we got to driving on the road, we kind of did it. We kind of freestyled it.
Well, you plan everything out, from what you can find out on the internet as far as where the locations are for where, all the charging stations are.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get there and one's offline, it's out of order.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go to a different location, so
Mm-hmm.
things happen. So,
all right, we are at our first charging station, Shell Recharge. This one you can either use the app or you can use your credit card, which we plan to use the credit card. Okay. Slow. All right, we are doing our first charging session on the road. It was a learning experience because this was the one we wanted, and for whatever reason it was offline. Makes you think it's online, but it's not. That was the super fast one. This one is as fast as the ones we've used, and it's charging us up from 50% to 80% in about 20 minutes. So it'll be ready in about 10 minutes, and then we'll get back on the road.
So it's always good to plan a backup.
Yes.
Like we'll go here, but
Definitely.
if this one, something wrong with this one, then we'll go over here.
Mm-hmm.
Have a couple of them. But I was kind of pleasantly surprised that the charging stations aren't as few and far in between as I thought.
Right.
I mean, we got to the point where we were Googling where's the nearest EV charging station.
Yeah.
Oh, 3 miles up the road, make a left,
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, it really wasn't hard to find a charging station at all. All right, so we are at number 2 charger here. This is an Ennis, and we are at a 350 kilowatt hour charger, and we had no issues this time. We like that. It is charging. Look at that.
Let you use the card.
Let me use the card and everything. It's charging.
Oh,
It'll be ready in 25 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it should be.
Exactly. That first one we went to, that was a pain.
What's with downloading all these apps?
I don't know.
Why do you need an app?
Oh, see, this one was easy. This one was no app. Just plug in, put your card in the card reader, done.
That's it.
Yeah. The other one was have to download an app, have to add a payment card and all that stuff, and
Drama.
it was nuts.
Yeah.
And then the one we wanted to use wasn't online.
Yeah, we had to find the other one. We spent like probably an hour there.
Yeah, that was a waste.
And only about 25 minutes of that hour was spent charging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this took less than 2 minutes. Actually, less than a minute. And we're charging, and we should be up to 80% in 25 minutes. Another thing I've learned is that you have to use multiple sources to find charging stations sometimes, depending on where you are, because we had the Acura app that told us where some charging stations were, and then I had the Tesla app that would find Tesla places, and then I used the EV Go app. We downloaded Francis Energy, used that, but they didn't all point out the same ones.
Right, they all had different ones.
Yeah, and then Google.
Yeah, and then Google. Now I will say, you know, we initially had planned to get the adapter
Yes.
for the Tesla charger,
Yes.
and we didn't do that.
Mhm.
But we found out that, well, first of all, charging stations for our kind of charger are
Yeah.
not that hard to find.
Right.
And then when we went to the Buc-ee's in Melissa, Texas,
Mhm.
they've already converted their Tesla charging stations
Yeah.
to be equipped for our car.
Yeah. Yeah. So they have adapters. You can charge a
Yeah.
free Tesla. If you have a non-Tesla, you have a button you can push, and it'll pull out the adapter, and you can use the adapter.
Yeah. And
So, Mrs. Rentie, how are you liking your travel on this electric car?
it's actually very cool. So far, so good. We found 3 good places to charge, and now we're leaving Texas and about to head over into Oklahoma, where things might get a little sketchier, a little harder to find.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yep.
But so far, so good.
Mm-hmm. I would say, out of all of the places to charge, Buc-ee's in Melissa is the coolest. It's a Tesla charger. Actually, all the Tesla chargers are set up for Tesla and non-Tesla cars. So when you push this button here, it comes off with an adapter that can go to your non-Tesla vehicle. And then you just set up your app and you're good to go.
Yeah. And so it was, super, super easy.
Yeah.
And if any of you know, if you've ever been to a Buc-ee's, you know that there's plenty to do in there.
Yeah.
Eat, shop, relax. And so it's a great, and it's nice and clean and spacious
Yes.
and all that. So you feel completely comfortable, even just sitting in your car while it's charging.
Yes. Yeah.
So we did run into one of those on our trip up.
Right.
But I think we have it narrowed down that when we do that trip again next year, there's 4 charging stops that we're going to make.
Yeah. All right. So this is charge number 4. This is somewhere in McAlester, Oklahoma. We have enough to get to where we need to go, but we'd be pretty low, so we decided just to go and just top off. And this one is, all the other ones were charging at about 350 kilowatts. This one is charging at 50. So it would get us, well, this is like our home charger. This would get us to about 80% in about an hour, 20 minutes. But we're gonna get it up to about, because right now we started at about 32%, so we're getting up to about 45, just to make sure. We're about 70 miles away from our destination, and then 45% would give us about 150 miles. So we just want to go ahead and just, hedge our bets. But we're almost there. It's not been a bad drive at all. It's been actually pretty interesting and fun. So we'll probably see you guys when we get to our destination. Okay, we're doing one more charge. It was just not gonna be enough. But we're temperature's dropping.
Yeah. We had to do one more charge because the last charger was
Really slow.
and
Yeah.
it just didn't do the job. So this is a fast charger. This should do it. And then we're gonna head on to the house.
Yep.
All right.
Almost there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the other key thing is that we didn't let it get down to
Like
zilch,
10%, yeah.
before we start looking for a charging
Right.
station. You need to
Yeah.
plan that out. So I wouldn't go below 100 miles,
Yeah.
100 mile range if I was in search of a charging station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a point to where we didn't charge at a place that it was like, should we? No, we can go. And we just kept going, and then we got down about like 95 miles left, and then we had to find a slow place.
Well, we stopped in, that was in Tahlequah, right?
Yeah. That was
On the
in
way up
Tahlequah.
there,
Yes.
we found one. It was at a QT one of those QT
Yeah.
stations where you go get gas and everything.
Mhm.
And then we were looking for chargers, charging stations. And now we're in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if you've ever been to Tahlequah, Oklahoma, but it's
the middle of nowhere.
It's the middle of nowhere. And so we were relying on, I think Google told us that's where it was. So we pull up into the QT station, and we're driving all around the perimeter, and we saw no charging stations. And we're freaking out because night is coming, the sun's gone down. And you know, we live in our family is in this little small country town with no street lights, and with 2-lane highways, and you don't want to be driving on them at night if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
So we're like, where are the charging stations? And then finally, way off in the corner.
Yeah. Kind of like across the little street.
Almost across the street. It was like these two or three little charging stations sitting off to themselves.
Yeah.
And we're like, is that it over there? So we drove over there, but they were fast chargers.
They were fast chargers.
They were fast charging stations. So that was really cool.
Yes.
So we loaded up on that, and that got us all the way into our destination.
Yes. Well, we've made it.
Yeah.
It's been a long day. The whole thing, drive-wise, was like, sorry, ow, it's okay. It's all numb up there anyway. The whole thing was about 12 hours. Over 12
about
hours.
12 and a half.
It was, it was weird because when we used the Google Maps that's in the car to map out the drive, and it told us it's going to be like 11 hours, almost 11 and a half hours.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, it's going to take less than that, because usually it takes us just 8 to drive, you know, because, filling up with gasoline is fast. And they factored in the charging times and all that stuff. And I think, like you said, you believe we could have gotten in a lot earlier than that.
Yeah, maybe about 10 hours, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, about 10 hours. Yeah. Because this is our first time trying to, we always, every charging station we had to learn. Yeah. And the first one wasn't acting right. So that took an hour.
Yeah, that took a lot longer than it needed to.
But otherwise, the charging experience wasn't bad at all. No. We charged it up to 80% each time, and that was about 20 minutes usually until we got to that next to last charger that was really slow. Yeah. And we only did like 15% on that one because it took like a half hour to get to 15%.
That was really the only problem.
Yeah.
Because the Walmart chargers were fine.
Yes,
flawless,
those are great.
No problem. The Tesla charger.
Oh, Tesla charger.
With the adapter.
That's awesome.
That was awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the Buc-ee's in
Madison?
No. Melissa. Melissa, Texas. Yeah. That was great. And so overall, we had a pretty good experience with the charging. It just, a few of those, charging stations just weren't adequate, or they had a little problem with their charger.
Yeah.
So.
And we had to find them sometimes.
Yeah.
So other than that, no complaints.
Yep.
Yes.
So we'll know better what to expect next time.
Yeah. We'll give you guys a full breakdown once we get back, but now we're going to enjoy Thanksgiving with our family. We're not one of those people that run around and film everybody during private family events. So
no. Just a few pictures here and there.
Yeah, maybe so. But other than that, we'll give you guys a full recap when we get home. Okay. Bye. Yes. Now, most of the time we were charging up to 80% because all the way up to 80% it's fast, 20 minutes. But you do have the option to charge up to 100, and that way you have a wider range. You can go a little farther. It's going to take longer because it's going to take about an hour to go from 80% to 100. But in a lot of cases, it could be worth it. Yeah. Yeah. But we left Wednesday morning at like 4:30 in the morning. That particular drive usually takes about a little over 8 hours. Yes. It took us a little over 12 hours to drive it, but that was because we were in learning mode, trying to find these places. Well,
when we put our route into our car's navigation system, just the night before, just to kind of see, how it would play out. The car said it would be 11 and a half hours.
Yeah.
And we're like, why in the world would it take 11 and a half hours for an 8-hour trip? But it was factoring in the stops and how long it would take to charge the car and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So given the fact that we just went maybe an hour over, maybe 30 minutes to an hour over what the car predicted, it's not too bad, because we ran into the, oh, this charger doesn't work, let's go to this one. Oh, this one's out of order. Oh, I need to download the app, and we went through all that stuff. So the time it took, an extra 20 minutes here, an extra 30 minutes there, we still made relatively good time.
Yeah.
I think the next time we do it, we know what to look out for.
Yes.
Should be no problem.
Yeah, it should be no problem at all. So it was good. And then when we got to our destination, the cool thing is that our cousin had, he has a Tesla, and so he installed a 220 plug so he can charge. And he told us, hey, you have this right here. And of course, we brought our portable charger with us. Now, going off of a 110, that portable charger is super slow. It's like 1% per hour. But it also has a 220 adapter. And it is just about as fast as our home charger.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot better.
Yeah.
And he had a 220 installed, so we used that. It's basically your washing machine, your dryer plug that you have in your house. Really, really easy to do. So we plugged up, charged the car up to 100%.
Yeah.
So, all right, happy Thanksgiving all. So we are here in Oklahoma. It's cold, 32 degrees outside, and fortunately we had a nice plug that was set up that we could charge the car. So now the car is charged up to 100%, and we're not going to be driving anywhere today, and so in the morning it'll be ready to go at 100%. But that was so very cool that they had all this set up already, because some of our other relatives have electric cars too. So very cool.
Yep.
So by the time we drove a little bit around town Thanksgiving and stuff, and then by the time we were getting ready to leave the next morning after Thanksgiving, we had like 98% or 95 to go off of, and so that was a really big help.
That was great.
Yes.
That was great.
Yes. Otherwise, driving was great.
It was not a problem at all.
Yes.
I was a little concerned. I think the night before we left, I read something about being aware that, electric cars in cold weather could possibly slow down the range, and you wouldn't be able to use some of your amenities in the car, like your heater and all this stuff. And it had dropped into the 20s.
Yes.
The morning that we were getting ready to leave. And so, you weren't worried about it at all. You're like, we're going to be fine. I'm like, oh,
that's how I am. I'm like,
they say the lithium in the battery is going to freeze. And I'm like, oh. Yeah. And so, that next morning, he got up, he started loading the stuff in the car, our luggage in the car, turned on the car, car was warming up.
Okay. The cool thing about this is once you pre-start the car, it adapts itself to the climate, and you see it's 100%, and the heater is on, the heated seats are on, which I feel right now. Let's get this going, and the wipers came on and smeared all the bird doo-doo that happened to be on the windshield, but that's okay. Yes. The rear defroster is on, and this is so cool. Oh, actually, rear defroster is not on, but it seems to act like it is. So, and being that it's cold, the tire pressure is showing low, but that's because it's so cold outside. So we're gonna get this car moved around and parked.
When we got in the car, it was so cool. Our daughters were in the back, totally asleep, like they were in their bed, just, And then
Yeah.
And I mean, it's ice all over the car.
Yes.
But
all right, so we are on our way back. We just left the house, and oh my gosh, this car is frozen. We're driving, it's been 20 degrees. So it's just fun to watch. Frosty.
But inside, we were nice and warm and comfy, had
Yes.
music playing.
It was
great.
It was definitely great. It was really great. One thing that you learn, the range that it tells you it has is very dynamic. It changes. It changes with how fast you drive, if you put a big load on, because it could say that you have 200 miles, and then you can run it up to 80 miles an hour to pass somebody, and like a minute later you'll have 195 miles, but you've only gone 2 miles. So that's something to be aware of. However, when we were coming back, we were on our last charge, and
Sorry.
we were on our last charge, and at first it didn't seem to be our last charge, because the range was like 230 miles, or was 220 miles, and we were about 235 miles away, according to what Waze was telling me. But then Sherry pulled up her Google Maps on her iPhone, Apple Maps, and it had a different route, and it was like 214 miles. It was less than than what the range was. And so we're sitting there like, well, we got enough to, it gave us a cushion. At first it was a cushion of about maybe 10, 15 miles and stuff. It's like, we can do this, because we were ready to go home.
It was risky,
Yeah.
because we were at a charging station when we determined this, and we were tired of charging. We wanted to just go home. And so that's when we looked up the range, and it was kind of like, you know what? If we follow this map right here, then we don't have to stop anymore.
Yeah.
We can just go straight home. So we said, let's do that. So we decided to do it. Now, in the process of going there, I'm constantly watching the range compared to how many miles we actually have left to get home. And so for a minute there, it was like about a 10-mile difference.
Yeah.
And I'm like getting a little nervous, like, I don't know, maybe we should actually find some place to stop. Now, we're still in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And so I started looking for charging stations. And at one point, I think we had about maybe 60 more miles to go to get home. And the charging station, it was located behind us. Like we had passed
30
it.
miles back, I think, or 20 miles.
Maybe about 7 miles
7 miles back.
But we didn't want to go backwards. We were tired. We wanted to go home. And so I'm like, you know what? Maybe if we just drive the speed limit, be real careful about that. Not go over, just keep it steady. Don't accelerate a lot. Just drive normal. Yes. And so we did that. Yeah. And by the time we actually made it home, we had 30 miles left on our range.
Yeah. And we are home. And we tested the limits of that battery. We got 10% to spare, 30 miles. So we'll fill you in on this a little later. Yes.
So just driving normal, like normal people, without trying to pass everybody and cut everybody off, you can actually save miles.
You know what really helped was the cruise control. I set it to a certain speed and just stayed in my lane. Only passed when it was absolutely necessary. Didn't really give it a whole bunch of throttle very often. And also, I believe that the roads kind of started flattening out, and we had a lot of downhills, because we would go downhill for a bit, and it would start charging, because it would coast, and it would add like a mile or two on the range while we were coasting. I'm like, oh, all right. So I was so we were trying to do the speed limit and keep a steady speed, not go up and down and up and down. Just keep everything steady. So your driving habits have a definite effect on how you on your range. But this was great. this ZDX is awesomeness.
Mm-hmm.
It was comfortable. It rode really well.
Mm-hmm.
The seats felt good. The amenities were,
everything worked properly.
Yes.
No issues at all.
No, none whatsoever. The only thing, but it's not inherent to the ZDX. It was just that when it got cold, the tire pressure dropped.
That was to be expected. I mean, it was in the mid-20s.
Yeah.
I think mid-20s when we got to our destination, and probably about maybe 5 miles, maybe about 10 miles away from the house is when I noticed the tire pressure.
It was getting really cold.
And it was super cold. But even with that, we got back home, no problem.
Oh yeah, not a problem.
No problem.
Yeah, not a problem. And so, overall, this was an excellent experience.
Yep. I wouldn't hesitate to do another road trip.
Nope. No. You know, I mean, I probably wouldn't go to drive this California, although we could drive to California. It just would take a long time.
It's a long
with
trip.
The charging, you know. So, 1,000 miles we did. I mean, this was 500, whatever, up and 5 so and so
about
back.
585 each way.
Yeah, so almost 1,200 miles.
Yeah.
That was fine.
Yeah, California is like in a gas car about 1,500 miles.
Yeah.
Each way. So, and that takes, if you were going to drive it straight through, it's about 23 hours, I think. So imagine if you were going to drive it straight through in an electric vehicle.
The range is just not conducive. There may be a time where you can get some really extended range with that. You can do that. And I'm not saying that you can't drive an electric car to California. You can. It's just gonna take
you a few days, really, because you're gonna drive and you stop for the night. Charge up and do it again. But I wouldn't really want to do that.
No, but for what we were doing, perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, this car really gets our thumbs up on this. Now, I know for a lot of us who are considering getting an electric car, one of the most intimidating things about it is the home charger. Because even though, like, I'm a gearhead, I knew they had home chargers, but I didn't know what it entailed. And this, for a lot of people, looks intimidating because they don't know what's behind it or what it is or anything. So I'm just going to tell you, this just takes that's all there is to it. This is completely self-contained. Get yourself a stud, 2 screws, and this lines up. If I can remember how to get it back on correctly. We're going to edit that. That hangs right there, and that locks into place. This is your general run-of-the-mill dryer, clothes dryer plug, a 220. If your garage already has this, you're like 90% there. You don't have to have anything installed. All you need to do is to mount this on the wall, plug this in, and you're ready to go. For us, we had to have this installed, and that was the biggest part of the cost right there. Fortunately, Acura, as well as a lot of other manufacturers that sell electric vehicles, they will give you some money towards this. It'll either take care of the entire cost or most of the cost. So this was a mystery that was on my mind, so hopefully this mystery has been solved for you. This is not very difficult at all, and it's a very easy thing once you know what it all entails. So this is the home charger, plain and simple. Yeah, I think that was it. Nothing much else to say on this.
That's it.
You know, so be sure, as usual, thank you guys for hanging with us.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I'm going to put scenes in between us talking or put this after this, but most likely in between. So thanks for going on this journey with us. Thanks for hanging with us. And as always, if you want to just keep up with what we're doing, be sure to like, share, and
Subscribe.
please subscribe. And thank you so much. And we'll talk to you later. You guys take care.